Hello, George. Welcome.
Hello, Dave.
I don't know. I don't know why the other link was not working. I think it might be some kind of confusion between setting up an event as opposed to a Hangout, but I'm pretty sure when I set it up, I did select Hangout on air, but the problem was when I was hitting the link, it was not bringing me to this, at the very top of the screen on this test one that I just made. It gives me the option to click on it, and it brings me to like this in-house studio that I'm using right now. That original link that we had set up for the last couple of days was not bringing me to the studio. So I did get the message out to a bunch of the people who said that they were going to be watching here, and then I sent out another invite to everybody in the circle. So I think anybody who was planning on being here will now see the new link to get here. And I did leave links on the other one as well. Hey, Maria.
Hi.
That was an amazing link that you shared earlier about what county was that in California? Can you tell us?
California.
What are they doing out there?
Well, I was just reading about it briefly. I didn't really get a chance to look into it completely, but I think that's pretty awesome. It looks like they already have an entire community there already in place, already active. They're active in the city council. So that's why I was also thinking of personally setting up a whole list of ideas and going to the local city council here in my hometown as well and setting up something and just presenting an idea. Because if you can get this message out to the local people who are actually already in charge in certain positions, then that will already help immensely.
For sure. So that was in Mendocino. Are you close to that county? You know? With the redwood forests. So yeah, anyway, Maria had shared this link earlier titled California County Passes Historical Law Declaring Right to Self-Governance. Now I'm going to see if I can do a screen share with this so everybody can see. Okay. Hey, Elizabeth, how are you?
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great. So if you guys can see here, it says California County passes historical law declaring right to self-governance. Mendocino and the Redwood Forest area, California, by a significant margin, they became the first county in California, second county in the country to pass into law a very powerful local ordinance that declares local self-governing rights in their communities over state and federal jurisdiction, and that over 67% of the votes cast were in favor of the measure. The ordinance provides for waters free from toxic trespass, preemptively bans all fracking activity, heavy ordinance, and establishes a community bill of rights to, for, and by the residents of Mendocino County, while checking corporate powers as well. In addition, the newly created law gives the rights of nature to exist and flourish, whereas previously nature had no standing in the court of law. So this is really excellent news here, because everybody's talking about this kind of stuff. It sets a precedent for the rest of us, that we can actually point to, you know, the sheriff and the the town council in our communities and say, look at what they're doing out here in California. Wouldn't it be great to implement something like this in our community? It just really brings it right up to a level of like reality, like this is really happening. This is not patriot mythology. This is not a bunch of new age people. But it really seems like this type of message is resonating with a lot of people out there. So I was really excited to hear about that.
I also think it's wonderful. It will inspire other people as well. And also, if you live in a town where you are able to implement these kind of things, but your neighboring towns are more commercial, then it would be interesting to find out how your neighboring towns are linked and what kind of resources are being shared, just to get the word out there as well. Just an idea.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to try to plug Benjamin in here. He just sent me a text. He's having trouble coming in, so let me try to get him connected. So I'd love to hear how everybody's doing. What's everybody feeling about the elections, and any news happening out there that we should be aware of?
The only news I follow, well, it's Maria here. The only news I follow is the stuff we're doing, so I'm focusing on what's important.
Mm-hmm. Anybody get a chance to hear that? I think Michael Evie Knight from Ubuntu Colorado shared a link on our page of the Canada chat with Michael Tellinger when he was up visiting the Canadian folk. Was anybody able to check that out?
Dave, I'm going to speak for myself. Others might have similar experiences, but I get up in the morning, I go to work, I come home, I have dinner, and then I get on my chat with you guys on Thursdays. So I haven't really had time to look at a lot of stuff.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's certainly a frustration here as well. It's just finding the time. However, at least I have had some connection with our sheriff here in Sullivan County. I found out he's connected with our Oath Keepers and meets with them. So that's a good start, and just comforting that he's open to ideas.
That's super good news. I'm not far from you. We should meet up one day. I would love to come and meet your sheriff, because that would give me some good practice with meeting with my sheriff, and I could tell him that I've already met with another sheriff, and I like the idea of connecting with you, Liz, because you said your sheriff's connected with the Oath Keepers, so we definitely know that they're kind of concerned about the same stuff that we are. Can you tell the other folks here about the Oath Keepers, or at least what you know about them, in case they're unaware?
Oh, sure. The Oath Keepers are an organization made up of military service people, both active and retired, and they're just very interested in getting the service personnel to take their oath to the Constitution seriously, and to remind them of their duty to protect people from, threats both foreign and domestic. The Oath Keepers in Sullivan County are particularly concerned about Second Amendment rights, and they seem to be putting most of their energy toward trying to, that New York passed the SAFE Act, and so they're trying to get it repealed. And they're trying to go through proper channels to do that.
Yeah, the Oath Keepers are a real ally, I think, for our organization. I also wanted to acknowledge James here. I know he's got his microphone off, but he's been with us for a while. Just wanted to greet him as well. And Carla, I said hi earlier. Hey, Robert.
Hello.
There you are.
Hey, Dave.
Glad you could join us. So yeah, the Oath Keepers, I really recognize them as allies, and it's really important to get like over all the partisan stuff. And I know that anybody connected with Ubuntu is kind of understanding of that, but the bond that unites us is that these are people who have served this country in one way or another, either in the military or as police officers. There's probably other capacities as well in terms of public service, but they're all together for one reason, which is that they're concerned that we are slipping farther and farther away from our foundation as a constitutional republic. Which, hey, Ben, how's it going, man? And so basically, they all took an oath, as I did about 10 days ago when I became a notary public, to uphold and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And there definitely seems to be some kind of subversive element, and I'm sure part of it is spiritual. It's all, it's all tied in at all levels, in this fractal holographic universe that we live in. But we have a responsibility when we become aware of it and we see how our freedoms and rights are being eroded. It's important to address the possibility that there is a deliberate, orchestrated, subversive effort that is seeking to bring us into bondage in one way or another. So Oath Keepers have basically come together and said, listen, if we're ever ordered to fire upon American civilians, we're going to refuse those orders. This is the stuff that they speak amongst themselves as far as their platform, that they would refuse, obviously, to follow any orders to arrest or shoot American citizens. That they're reaffirming their commitment to defend the Constitution against domestic enemies, because I think that that's what we're dealing with at some level here. So that's great, Liz. I would love to meet up with you and get together and go visit your sheriff for sure.
Yeah, so the Oath Keepers meet monthly in Monticello. That's the county seat, and it's very easy. They go to the local Elks Lodge, and we can meet with Michael Schiff there.
I would love that. So I think we're pretty much got most of the people who are going to be here for tonight. So let's go over the itinerary tonight. We're going to discuss rules for Ubuntu land choice, which will have to do with like when we do have the opportunity, as we do right now. We have a brother out in Pennsylvania who has a piece of land that he's offering. So we have to consider what are the criteria that must be met before we start directing people to, pull up the roots of their life and go and start something new. We have to make sure that it's very safe, that it's very secure, that it's not going to end up in failure. And a lot of that can be addressed before it even gets going. We're going to talk about involvement with alternative projects, which means the kind of comfort level that we have, and just I don't know if anybody has maybe two devices going at once, but I'm hearing some ping-ponging. I don't know exactly if we can manage that, but just be aware. But involvement with alternative projects, dealing with our comfort level of how much time and energy we want to give to secondary projects, because we're all here together because we want to see Ubuntu materialize in this country on all the levels that we've been discussing. It's going to take a lot of work and focus, so we really have to be mindful when we are being called in other directions to support other similar style projects or organizations. So we should really determine for a group what are those kind of guidelines we want to implement in terms of getting involved with alternative projects. We're going to discuss the role of the sheriff, the Ubuntu Sheriff. We're just kind of chatting about that with Elizabeth. Common law citizens, grand juries, which may be a very effective way to deal with some of the issues that we're having with American jurisprudence. It really seems that it all comes down to the laws that we're dealing with, and we're going to have to really end up doing what Michael did, which is going into the courtrooms and maybe having to initiate lawsuits against banks or whatever. But we have to be prepared to be like David meeting Goliath and make sure that we have a good strategy for that. Michael sent me an email yesterday, and we had a nice little exchange. I'll go over that towards the end of our meetup. Wanted Robert to give us an idea of the status on the website, and then we're going to talk about literature distribution, and not necessarily in that order. And I thought maybe what we could do to keep it organized is kind of go round robin as we discuss each topic. We can go right down the line as you see on your screen, and you can either say pass if you don't want to mention something, but I want to give an opportunity for everybody to weigh in with their thoughts. So how does that sound to everybody?
I think that sounds great.
Is anybody else getting an echo?
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
Echo.
I think somebody has two devices maybe open. That could be one of the problems. How many people here are not wearing headphones?
I'm keeping my mic off most of the time if I'm not talking.
There we go. That's what we've got to do. Please go on your screen and hit the top of your screen. You're going to be able to mute your microphone. Okay, that fixed it. That's great. So,
Jared, a fellow Wisconsin coordinator, just asked if he could join in the call. I'm just getting his email quick. Sorry.
hey, Jess. Welcome, Jess. How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing great.
Do you want to hop on then?
You just come over here and come out.
So beautiful to see you guys.
What are we talking about?
And once I get the email for Michael E. Knight, actually I might be able to add him. I might have his email already. Let's see here.
Can you guys hear me?
Who is that?
James?
Oh yeah, hey James, man, how's it going, brother?
Finally. Shit.
Good to hear your voice.
Yeah, hello everybody.
Alrighty, there's Jared's email. We can just add him as well, if that's all right. Let's see.
Okay, this is Mike. Okay, Jay Brilla, that's Jared, you said?
Yes.
And then how about, somebody mention Michael E.V. Knight? Are we trying to connect him as well? Because I do not have Michael E.V. Knight's email, so I will need that from somebody if he wants to get in on this phone call. Okay, Jared B. Okay. All right, Jared just got an invite. Okay, so maybe we'll just start off with an update on the website. Robert, would you like to give us an update and where that's at?
Yeah, Maria and I have worked a little bit on some graphics for the website. As you probably saw the logo, we've got a header up. Not quite happy with it yet, so I'm still fiddling with that, working on the layout, and of course there's plenty of fine-tuning to do. And at some point we kind of need to talk about, I'm not sure the best way to do this, y'all can think about it, but we need to think about what we want to have on the home page, you know, as far as text, content. What's when someone lands on the site, what's the first impression that we want to leave them with? And then we need to be thinking about additional information that we want to present. I know we've talked about a map of all of the coordinators, and I have not checked on the progress of that, but I'll do that this week. So that's kind of where it is. It's a work in progress, and of course it always will be, but yeah, working on it.
Great. Hey, Lucas, how's it going, brother? So I was really inspired with. I'm gonna do a screen share here. This is directly related to our website. We can emulate another website, I think, very well. I signed up for at the behest of Larry Twist, who's on our Ubuntu Council. I signed up for Campaign for Liberty. Now, this is Ron Paul's thing, all right? Now, let's see if I can actually, all right. So they're really organized here. I would you get this link, and at your leisure over the next couple of days, just explore the site because it's set up really well in terms of like immediately getting their information, getting a response to them with a confirmation email, and immediately putting them into a position of activation within their community. So I think this would be a really awesome website to model ours upon because it's basically doing everything we want to do, which is that we want to make a really, you know, effective, fast impact by plugging people in. That there's not that kind of like informational delay where people like lose their steam and motivation. I signed up for this and I immediately plugged in and volunteered to be a coordinator in my community for Campaign for Liberty, and of course I will use my involvement with that to also seg it with Ubuntu and to connect the two. But I just wanted to mention Ron Paul's Campaign for Liberty. Yeah. Anybody else?
I have a couple ideas. I have it written down. I just can't find a piece of paper now. But I have some awesome ideas as well. I was thinking maybe we can do, like, I'm glad you brought up Ron Paul because I loved his book, The School Revolution. If we can maybe feature books, because Ubuntu is all about educating people as well. So if we can have a page where we feature books, it can be anything about law, nutrition, anything that benefits everyone. So I think that would be a good idea, and just a little paragraph about the author and a little something about what the book's about, something like that as well we could do. That's just an extra add-on.
Sure.
As well.
Yeah, and that's no problem.
Yeah. There's also Kyle Berry said he would love to help with the website as well. So if you want to get in contact with him, he has some great ideas to help. He does a little coding as well, so he could help you out, Robert.
Yeah, I haven't checked with him yet. There's another, what's her name? Someone else has offered to help, and I've got her a login set up. I don't know that she's been on the site yet, but I'll be checking up with her again. There's some background stuff I really needed to get done before I turn people loose. So,
going down the line, Lucas, anything that you want to bring up regarding the website? There you go. Can't hear you, brother. I know you took your microphone off, but I cannot hear you. Anybody else can hear Lucas or no?
No.
No.
He's going to plug some in. This is probably going to do it. We hear some clicks and pops. That's a good sign. There you are. What's up, Lucas? How's it going, bro?
All right. How's it going?
Great, man.
So I actually just got a chance to look at the website today, and it didn't really give me much options. I got on, and immediately it's tried to reroute me to the Facebook page. So I couldn't even view anything on the Ubuntu Party website.
Yeah, that's right. I don't have anything there for most people to see. I've sent some links to Maria. She can kind of look around on the back end. If you type in home at the end, you'll see the banner. But I just put that splash page up there to catch people that come by and redirect them to Facebook for the time being.
I was looking at the contributionism book again today, and I was actually thinking that obviously that would be a great idea to take some pieces out of the book and put that on the homepage. Key things like there was one thing that I posted to the Wisconsin page today about how Earth is sacred. Just little phrases in brackets could help as well. And I love the essence of Ubuntu on the flyer that David made. I think that captured it pretty well. Like the words that he used is amazing. I don't know, David, did you make that flyer yourself?
Yeah, I designed the flyer. The opening stanza, which to me is the best part of it because it really hooks people in, was from our brother Larry Twist. He had shared it one day on their Ubuntu page, and he was like, "Imagine a world without money." It was just like I could hear like this, like really upbeat ukulele background music, like a nice, happy, cheery little, video. So yeah, you could use any words from there. And another great way to
Awesome.
find good content from the book is if you download the Kindle book, okay, to your computer and you open your Kindle app. Like for instance, I was sharing a bunch of quotes from the book yesterday, and I wanted to get right down to solutions because I know that people want to hear about like Ubuntu solutions. So I just put in the search bar the word solutions, and then it populated like the 40 or 50 places where the word solution occurs in the book. And then I went through those and found the best ones that were good for my purpose. So you can put in words like love, healing, life, abundance, community, unity. You see what I'm saying? And build a nice body of information without having to like read the whole book and decide which parts you're going to grab. You could just use a search engine.
Absolutely. I just got a PDF version. I can send it to you as well, Robert. If you'd like to, you can directly copy from there as well. So I'd be happy to send you that link.
Point of order.
Okay, yeah, that'd be fine. I'm sticking the link to the homepage so you guys can look at the header and just the basic layout if you want to take a look at it.
Guys, Dave?
Hey, James.
I converted that PDF into an HTML doc just to make it easier for me to read.
Cool.
But what you could do is that if you're going to take excerpts out of that and you put anchor links into the web page, you can actually, if they want to review where they left off, they can go right to that place in the page. I don't know how fancy you want to get, but that's only a suggestion.
Great, thank you. Feel free to share the link to the HTML on the group page.
Okay. I didn't put it on the net yet. I didn't know if anybody would actually want me to, but that's why I'm telling you.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, if you want it somewhere. I think all the images are inline. I've got to check that. I was just checking the text. I've got to check the images and see how that works. I may want to give it to one of you guys as a zip and just let you put it wherever you want.
Great, and I know we still need to get like a response from Michael as to, is this something that we can offer for free viewing on the website? I mean, he might be amenable to that, not that we're giving it away for free, but that people can come to the USA website to actually read it. I think he'd be totally cool with that.
I got it off of one of his Ubuntu. I got it off on a Ubuntu website. I thought it was an official Ubuntu website, so I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah, you would think so.
Yeah.
So going down the line, I know Karen just came back on. Karen, we're talking about the website. I don't know if you heard what Robert had to say, but if you had any feedback on the website, you can share it now, or you can just say pass, and we will move down to Benjamin and Jess.
I'm going to pass for now. I'm just trying to catch up again. I've been really swamped at work, so I'm listening.
Great. Glad you're here with us, Karen. Thank you.
Thanks.
Ben and Jess, how are you two beautiful souls doing?
Hey everybody, I'm doing very well over here.
Yes, we are.
Thoughts on the website? Jess has a lot written down in the notebook here. I'll let her
Yeah,
mention a few things.
I've been in the process of translating it to notes that I'm going to email who's in charge. They commented on one of the posts. There were some, I didn't write down the part about the website in the text, but there was a part that talked about how people might be uncomfortable joining Ubuntu communities at first, and it was mentioned in like 4 different paragraphs, and I haven't actually looked at the most recent version of the website, but I wanted to open that up for discussion and see if that's something that we wanted to necessarily keep reiterating or if we wanted to keep it positive.
Can you just clarify that the people were uncomfortable with what?
Joining, I think it was uncomfortable. I think it was just the text that Robert threw in.
Just the way it was worded.
Just like uncomfortable joining a tribe or something like that.
That the transition might be difficult. Or
yeah, I think you guys have been looking at the old website that Courier had up.
Okay.
Because if you go to my site, you're not going to see anything.
Yeah, that's great.
There you go.
He has the Ubuntu USA site, right? Not the Ubuntu Party USA, but if you go to Ubuntu USA, it is Courier. And I think she's supposed to go out to that meetup in Pennsylvania. I saw her on that event page, so she may be hooking up with Dustin Hoffman and those guys. But I know she's involved with Ubuntu at all. She made that very clear.
Okay. I guess I'll direct feedback forward here.
Yeah, so can you guys see on the group chat, can you see the link I posted to the website?
Yep.
Okay. So I have a single page. I actually have a couple other pages, but they're not gonna be on the menu yet. But that is one page that I've got up right now that you can just kind of see where I'm kind of heading with it.
Okay. Yeah, I guess, I mean, the way I see it, like, all of the stuff we're doing with design, with the website, all of this initial, like, planning, it's all going to be completely replaced once we get all of the talent in on this movement, and it's probably not going to take too long. So I think that just in general, we can pick really, like, I don't know, just common basic designs. Like we already pretty much have it. But just keep in mind, like as soon as we get going, we're gonna get brilliant visual artists who want to come in and help us do everything and alleviate all of our concerns with design, with text. We're gonna be getting brilliant people in here in not too much time.
Yeah, the next step is making it flashy and sexy and all of that.
And really, just like the design, like putting yourselves in that place, in an Ubuntu community, feeling that bliss. That's what we want to be coming from. Like, you know, this is like the image that's like, you know, the beautiful, you know, earth in our hands with a flower emerging. Like that's the style that everyone's going to, you know, that's the simple, colorful beauty that will be characteristic of our communities.
I love that idea. I love the color idea because we're all moving into color. I just posted a thing on the, I don't know if you all joined the meditation event, but I just posted a beautiful slideshow there. It's a lady, she has a event that she's having, a studio in New York, and she makes these beautiful, radiant, colorful transitions of slideshows of color, and it's just so beautiful because it's kind of healing. That's what color does, it heals you. So if you all want to look at that, because it's all about Ubuntu, the change we're bringing.
Yeah.
So I agree.
Let's talk to the artists, you know, let's bring the artists into this. I mean, the vision's out there. Like they have it, they're getting it right along with us. Lots and lots and lots of people. It's just really, you know, who do you know, and linking up.
And we have to start churning out videos. Everyone should start filming their friends talking about Ubuntu and making creative little clips and educational videos about everything so that we can have a whole video section just that's really diverse from people all over the world just sharing their enthusiasm.
Do we have a YouTube channel set up yet? Anybody know?
No.
Okay.
One thing I would like to do, I did send a message out to Charles Halbin. Now, Charles registered on Gmail, Ubuntu Party USA. I did ask him if he was amenable to, just kind of like letting us, just handing it over to the group. And then what we can do is we can do everything from there. We can get a YouTube channel from that email, which would be great to keep it really consistent. So I will reach out to Charles again to try to get a firm answer one way or another.
Okay. Also, think about what kind of email addresses that you would like for UbuntuPartyUSA.com. So, how do we want to, you follow me?
Yeah, I think our names, like, I would like to be, David Bryson at UbuntuPartyUSA.com.
Okay. David.Bryson, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay.
Okay, moving down, James, you had mentioned some stuff before. Did you have any more input on the website, or would you like to pass?
I'll pass. I kind of like the Jesse was talking about a lot of our concerns will eventually melt. I think it's not so much we're going into this as a patchwork, but just sort of start I like the idea that we're talking about things that we like and don't like, and sort of turning that around so that when the time comes to apply that, we'll be more familiar. I think we're doing okay.
Great. Thank you. George, what are your thoughts on the website?
So I looked at the page. It's nice, and we were talking earlier. Ben brought up that we can keep it simple for the time being. I totally agree with that. I guess there are two styles. Well, there's more, probably more than two. But I want to highlight the contrast. There's the sort of uber aesthetic, artistic, approach, which we don't need to do right now. I mean, that would be great, and I can bring out the fact that New Earth Nation, not not competitors, cooperators, they have the whole stunning visuals thing down pat, as I've said to several people. But I was thinking that, in the corporate world now, there's this trend towards keeping things very simple. I've done some contract work at Microsoft, and their approach over the last few years has been to really simplify everything. Just if you go to any of their websites, it's usually just a few colors and very straightforward. So there certainly is nothing wrong with that. That's a look that a lot of people will be familiar with. And then with a few appropriate graphics thrown in there, and the page we've got right now is just actually a really good example of that. It might be able to stand a little elaboration, but it's definitely better than that.
Yeah, well, I hesitated to even show it to you guys because it is very, very bare. It does not look the way I want it to yet, so just bear with me.
Great. Elizabeth, do you have any thoughts on the website, or would you like to pass?
I think this might have been mentioned, but I've seen some websites where, as people, create accounts or put in their information, that they're also organized by state, so that it's easier to get in touch with people that are close to you. That's my big, being out I feel like I'm in the middle of nowhere sometimes, but it's difficult to connect with people, and it would just be great to be able to find them easily on the website. And that's it.
Great. And then Carla, welcome. I'm glad you're here. Did you have any input on the website design or anything related to the site?
Yeah, I'm a little behind this week, David, so I didn't even really get a chance to really look through the sites. I've been trying to catch up on all the feeds and everything that's been happening there, so I really need to get back to that site and really take a look. So I apologize. I don't have a whole lot to add to that.
That's fine, no worries. Okay, so moving on to the next category of discussion. So this kind of ties in together the involvement with alternative projects and rules for Ubuntu land choice. Maybe we'll just stick with the first one, involvement with alternative projects. You guys might have seen my post this week. I do have some concerns only because, and this comes from a lot of years' experience with a lot of projects that I've been involved with, but to just narrow it down to run this festival that I have been producing for the last 8 years, and we're coming up on the 9th year. It's a fairly complex operation. It involves the intelligent use of time and energy. I've learned a lot by observation over the years, working with people and just seeing what works, what doesn't work, and I think that because we are basically taking on a huge commitment here, we have been asked by Michael Tellinger to be the conduit to bring the Ubuntu vision and represent as the official, approved by Michael in South Africa Ubuntu group. So it's a really heavy responsibility. So that being the case, I think it's really important to do a self-assessment for all of us. And I'm a big believer too, no guilt ever at any time. I'd be the first to tell you that, if I lost steam on this project at any time, I would just gracefully bow and say, I'm sorry guys, this is just not resonating with me anymore. And I know you do fine, because it's not about any one of us. It's a group effort. It's going to succeed no matter who's involved. But I want to to say for the record, so everybody's aware, that any help input along the way is welcome at any point in time. If you're just not feeling it for whatever reason, you don't even have to give your reasons. It's fine to just say, I'm just going to take a break on this for a while. In fact, case in point, Daryl Singleton reached out to me via private message. He's on the council, and he's a great spiritual inspiration for me, and an intelligent guy, and has accomplished some great things. But he said that he's going to, take a break from the council for a while, and gracefully, kind of bowed out, at least for temporarily, and it's totally cool. With that said, it is important to me that anybody who's going to be on this council, which means, this is the council, we're overseeing the implementation of a vision that will change the world. That means that the other kind of projects we get involved with, we have to manage our time. So I'm not saying that nobody can be, and it's not even for me to say, but I hope you understand what I'm saying here. It's just wisdom. For me too, I have to manage my time. I was a little bit concerned because I was just seeing some stuff from people chiming in about different things going on, and I began to get a little bit of feeling within, and said, this is not feeling in alignment with the mission here. So I just want to, zip my lips at this point and open it up to discussion. We'll go right down the line again. Robert, your thoughts on this?
How come I have to be first? No. No, I agree with you. I mean, I'm assuming we're all busy people. I know I am. And that's one of the reasons that the website still looks as bad as it does. I've working extra hours at work the last few weeks, and I've got 2 kids and a wife, and so there's a lot going on. And that being said, I'm not really looking to take on any other projects. So, there's Ubuntu and the rest of the stuff that I'm doing. But I agree. I've been looking at some of the stuff that's posted on the council page, and well, I guess I chimed in on one of those posts because, yeah, it's a concern. There's so much stuff that we can get focused on and distracted with, and we're not going to get anywhere if we're distracted. I've kind of learned that in my 43 years.
Moving on, Maria, are you here with us?
Yes, I'm still here.
Your thoughts?
Well, I must be honest with you guys, completely honest. 2 weeks ago, before I started, I was thinking, oh gosh, how am I gonna help these people? I have such a busy life. I mean, I have my own family, I have things to take care of, and there was so much that I wanted to do for Ubuntu. And I remember, David, I sent you a message as well because I was still in fear. And I was thinking, oh gosh, why do I have this fear inside of me? Why don't I just let go of it and just go with what I was called to do? Because I am so drawn to this, I have to help. You know? So I just decided, you know what? Whatever free time I have it right now. I'm blessed with that time. I'm going to use it, and I'm going to offer whatever I can. So, yeah, that's my thoughts.
Thank you. Lucas, any thoughts on this?
Is my mic working right now? I don't know.
Yep, you're good.
Yep.
Yeah? Alright, well, I think that we should only get involved with other projects so far as they can help us with our mission. There has to be like a unified idea of where we're going, so any involvement with any other projects or organization, because there's actually, the more you find out, the more you see that there's lots of other people doing similar things. Like you mentioned, Ron Paul's Campaign Liberty, and then there's things like the Sovereign Education Defense Ministry, and there's all these like little organizations popping up doing similar things, and it's cool to get involved and to get involved with those organizations, but only so far as it helps further what we're doing.
Great. Karen, any thoughts on that?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. This is kind of where I'm at. First and foremost, I'm completely committed and passionate about what we're doing. Like everybody else, I've got constraints on my time with my job, so I'm going to do is I'm trying to stay as up to date with everything that I'm seeing on Facebook and the website. I am in agreement sometimes when I come home at the end of the day and I try to catch up. There's an awful lot of stuff out there on the council page, and it's kind of hard to sift through it sometimes, especially trying to figure out what's relevant, what may not be necessarily something I need to look at right away. From the standpoint of where I'm at in South Dakota, very much interested in having things move forward here. The other state coordinator that I think you saw her name, Deb Thornhill, she goes by Dora on Facebook. Extremely talented, well-educated, well-versed in what's going on in our world today. We haven't had a whole lot of time to connect just because she's busy too, but I'm really excited to have her on board from the standpoint of what we're doing here. She's not all that far away from me. My focus, where I'm going with all of this, is I'm committed to staying connected because I really feel like we're going to need that out here in South Dakota. Like Liz, I feel like I'm on an island in the middle of nowhere. And I think it's going to be important that we stay connected to the council, just because if things are moving forward. I'm feeling like if I weren't, or if like I said, I'm not getting as much input from Deb as I'd like to. Just to keep everything going out here and not to lose focus, because I'm very committed to wanting to see a community out here.
Great. Thank you so much for just letting us know where you're at. But I just want to clarify that this question that we're discussing with, I just want everybody, so there's no misunderstanding, this is not about assessing where any of you are at. Like, I know everybody who's showing up for this phone call is very committed to Ubuntu, so this is not about putting anybody on the hot seat in terms of your level of involvement or engagement. There's no judgment there. It's just that what I noticed is, like, for instance, Michael E.B. Knight is not even using the name Ubuntu. He's doing like the Live Easy Party or whatever, work less, have more. That's great, but in my mind, the fact that he's not even associating with the name Ubuntu, like I'll give him tacit support because I think he's doing a great thing, but we are Ubuntu. So you see what I'm saying? I wouldn't invest much of my time, getting behind his gig because it's not even Ubuntu. Somebody else had mentioned something about the Green Party the other day, which is great. This is one of the, like I mentioned, I want to partially connect possibly with Ron Paul. I can manage my involvement so that it's not dominating my time. But again, Lucas made a very good point. We are looking to connect with people who want to help us pop up Ubuntu. And it's not about being selfish. It's not about thinking that we're best. It's the fact that we are on a commission. We have a mission to perform, a duty to fulfill. So I'm not even really interested so much in like working with organizations where it's like we go out into the world on a 50-50% platform. Like let's say if we did New Earth Nation and we made an agreement that all of our promo material and every time we spoke in public, we'd be speaking about Ubuntu and New Earth. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in Ubuntu Party USA, and anybody who wants to get with us, we could probably find ways to connect. So that's what I meant about getting involved by supporting other projects that are not directly Ubuntu related. That being said, Jess and Ben, your thoughts on this?
I think a lot of the reason that so much intermixing goes on the web with all these different groups is because Facebook is a platform where people get so excited to find all these other like-minded people interested in what they're interested in. There's so much cross-referencing within all these groups of the same types of people. So one thing I started doing is making a directory of all those different kinds of groups so that we can see a post that doesn't really belong or someone connected to another organization and say, here's the directory, I think maybe it's more appropriate in this group. And once that sort of goes around within this community, it'll start to be a lot more organized and we can really just have an Ubuntu group for people focusing on Ubuntu, hopefully.
Yeah, I think at this point, you know, at least as the page continues to grow, like everybody's going to be coming into this with their own projects. Like everybody has been educated somehow up to this point, and it's usually by getting involved in some way. But I think just like that, cleaning up the Facebook page, and like just having that be all about Ubuntu, and have, you know, just us policing that and like just, you know, adhering to that policy, that'll just be enough to get that out of our consciousness and focusing on this, because ultimately we are going to be prying a lot of those people, and we are going to be attracting lots of members from other groups when we really get rolling, because I have a really good feeling about we're getting rolling. So just I think we're golden, to be honest.
Beautiful. James, your thoughts? Your microphone is on mute right now. There you go.
Well, I want to redefine the idea of devotion. To me, this is a selfish activity. This is my passion, this is my life, and this will be my life for the rest of my life. Ubuntu, I see Ubuntu as the fire for everyone starting to focus on their own local activity, which means they're going to be focused on their own personal business locally. I think the concepts that Michael Tellinger has portrayed in the contributionalism idea is awesome. But as a project manager, I have a reluctance to talk about contributionalism and no money without making a major emphasis on the development of a local assembly and all the creativity and intelligence being focused on that local assembly. And I know we have and understand.
James, if you can bring your mouth closer to your microphone, this is really important. I'd like to hear your ideas on the assembly. I just want to make sure we have a good capture with your voice.
Is this better?
Better, and maybe speak a little louder and project, please.
Okay, so the assemblies, to me, are the magic for so many reasons. If you allow me the time to collate some good categories for thinking about this. This isn't going to happen overnight. And I want to feel content in the fact that this concept is perfect and genuine. There is no competition in the concept. It's exactly, when I heard the whole concept, it fit like a glove with everything I felt in my entire life. But what made it perfect was the Council of Elders. And I know the history in South Africa is not like the council or like it is here in the U.S. My observation of my history in this point in time, which is amazing to me, that in the last year I've come to this conclusion, that really the founding fathers had the Ubuntu vision in the first place. For all the examination of law, everything coming from the federal government is merely a suggestion. The document that I put up there on the reserved rights from the Jural Society of Texas to the governor and other 4 offices in Texas technically defines exactly what I'm talking about, to be able to hold your own local court, that your own local assembly can adjourn into its own court of record and its own jury. Now, I'll grant you, I know there's a learning curve on this, but it's again, it's a natural. After you hear it for a while, it starts to sink in, and to be in these jural meetings and to hold these with a jury foreman and a judge in a trial by jury is a guy that signs off on everything. He's just another one of the people there that vote. Okay, it's an entirely different script than what we're used to. The learning curve isn't so much the procedures. You can probably learn the procedures in maybe 2 or 3 days, over that period. From your assembly, court of record, how to convene, how to conduct a meeting, what your limitations are, where you can apply your creativity, where you can have open discussions. You can take and insert evidence into your local assembly through your court of record on any subject you want, for any goal that you want. And for example, the very document that's there on the reserved rights was developed in a meeting like that. I have found that being in an assembly is almost like a spiritual experience in itself. And with the kind of people that are awakening today, uh, the things that you can do with this is just totally amazing. I have a conference call on Sunday. I'm not advertising, but if you become curious about how my approach is to this, in my languaging and how I perceive things, I don't see the spiritual and law as being mutually exclusive at all. As a matter of fact, the natural law is what I would consider law for the enlightened. And it will take some time for all these different meanings to take hold, but they're natural. And the mind will find its way to it. I have no fear of that. But the one thing I would like to express in agreement with David and to elaborate a little bit more, I think we need to focus on our abundance. And the way I designed this project, the return at full speed on the project I'm working for, the return is $100 million a year. So I've got a pretty weird background that will probably take a while to explain that too. But I'm focusing on the abundance, and my heart is dedicated to developing Ubuntu in Nevada, and I'm not going to set some sort of criteria that people that are in Ubuntu Nevada have to be in Flower of Life Assembly, and I'm not going to, and so vice versa. It'll just naturally flow however it's going to flow, and when the money comes in, I'm going to back whatever I can for my own personal funds, and get started with the Ubuntu Party in Nevada, and back whoever's going to set it up, and promote it and embrace it. The project that I'm working on with the time banks, they can volunteer, and if they want to contribute, the only thing they have to do is not cash in their time allotments. So we're including that philosophy in the entire project. In fact, the entire philosophy will kind of be built on that because I'm sure we're going to need a lot of volunteers. It's a pretty big project, and it appears I'm taking a risk of going somewhere out in the desert on 25,000 acres, and I've got a vision to build a city. And well, if Mike Intelliger can build Ubuntu, I can build my city. So.
James, you're gonna have a lot of solar power.
How'd you say that? I didn't hear you. Could you repeat that?
You're gonna have a lot of solar power.
Well, there you go. So, I mean, I'm looking at all the advantages, not the disadvantages. But the thing I would like to say, I know a lot of people aren't focused on making money through this, and I understand that. But I would say if, this thing about abundance for your community, we can think about this. We don't have to think about it just from a poor perspective. And from a spiritual point of view, if I can't train you, or if I'm unable, or the time is not right to teach you about the laws of abundance in your own mind and soul, and you're looking for direction, well, I would direct you to contribute your time. Because in giving, you do receive. And that's a beginning start on a ladder of self-awareness. So how could I say that one point of view is mutually exclusive from the other? I can't. It's impossible. I can't. And coming from the point of view of healing, I can't even more. So if you have any questions on what I've said so far, I've taken the floor for a while. David, thank you for the opportunity to speak.
No, I know we wanted to cover the Assembly's idea last week, and we kind of had a bit of a snafu with the technology. So I'm glad that you were not only able to lay out your vision, which is beautiful and noble, and I support you in it for sure, but now it's captured on a YouTube video, so anybody who listens to this session of our Google Hangout will be able to hear you explain, and I'm sure there's even ways that you can take an excerpt out, because I thought that was a great introduction to it. Moving down on the subject of getting involved with alternate projects, George, did you have any thoughts? Again, feel free to pass if we just want to keep things rolling.
Well, I have a thing or two to say, just briefly. I think, each of us is different in terms of our I want to say fundamental nature. Maybe it's not that, but the way the mind works. And I've always been a person who has been, and I will admit, too much so, right? But interested in a lot of different things. And I see myself as trying to pull the different threads together in a way that is complementary, So I support what you're saying, and I understand what you're saying. I may be one of the people that comes in and says, "Oh, look what these other guys are doing. Isn't that interesting?" and maybe there's something in that we could benefit from. So that's about me, and it's about what the subject you're talking about and how I fit in with it. But I have been looking at what I've been doing lately, and I've said, George, you've got yourself involved in too many things, and you're going to have to prioritize and be disciplined, and there are some things that may have to, just wait until later. And this project, is not going to be one of the things that waits until later. So, I can assure you of that, I think, unless my time becomes even more constrained out of necessity than it is now by, making a living and taking care of other, say, family obligations and things like that.
Thank you, George. Liz, any thoughts? Elizabeth?
Yeah, I'm here. I was having a little trouble unmuting. Not too much more to add. I sometimes, what I feel when I read comments from other people is just it's their frustration. They're excited about Ubuntu. They want to see it reality now, as much as I do, and as much as I know, that it is a reality. It's just not we're not there yet living what we want to be living, and it's all good. I mean, because everything would help us to live in the Ubuntu framework. I mean, we can pull ideas from everything, and as long as it supports what we're doing, it's not bad. But like I said, I do feel people's frustration. I know what they're going through. It's a mixture of impatience and anticipation, and just desperately wanting change. I hear them.
Great, thank you, Liz. Carla, any thoughts on this? Okay, we are going to, Carla, if you do come on, I will give you a chance to speak, but I just want to keep things rolling here. Not sure if you're listening right now. So next up, so kind of tied into this, our guidelines for land choice. Okay, now this is an important thing because right now we do have what could be potentially a great thing, and it could potentially be a disaster. I'm going to speak very frankly here, okay, because I care about this movement. I care about the people that are coming together. Again, I can refer to my experience in the festival world. Okay, I have seen festivals come and go. Everybody wants to do a festival. They think that all their friends are going to come and they're going to get rich and then it's going to be there forever. Okay, just like a business, it's very difficult to maintain continuity. Thank goodness Evolve Fest hit that 5-year point, and it's an institution now. The people who come are going to keep coming year after year. There's a community that's growing around it. But what I've seen is that people get excited. They want to do their thing, and that's great. Everybody should have a go at it. But through poor planning and all sorts of stuff that I had to learn, there's so much that can go wrong. And at the end of the day, you just don't want to have pie on your face, like not being able to deliver on the goods. I've seen like huge festivals where like it was canceled the day before the gates opened because like they didn't get a permit. Something so basic as that. So I'm going to speak very frankly. Dustin Hoffman has property in Pennsylvania. It's a large bit of property. I met Dustin and his wife at Evolve Fest this year. They're a very nice couple. He is offering this land to start out the first Ubuntu community, which is a beautiful gesture. My first thoughts are, who owns the land? Do you own it outright? Does the bank own it? Who's holding the title? If the bank owns it, how far into the mortgage are we? What are the monthly mortgage payments? Who's going to make those payments? This kind of a thing. And Dustin responded to me and had mentioned that I think December is not the termination of the mortgage, but I got the sense that it's not a solid situation there. My first thought is like whether he's aware of it or not, or maybe I don't know the full story, but I was hoping that he was not trying to pull people, because he did suggest too that maybe in the scenario that they can actually utilize some kind of legal strategy to define making payments. And I'm hearing this and I'm thinking not a good way to launch our first, like, hey everybody, look at our first Ubuntu community. I'm just getting too many vibes about it that I don't personally feel cool with it, and I'm willing to be corrected if I'm wrong, but my feelers have been out there on this and I'm just not getting a good resonance. And I'm a little bit concerned that he's kind of acting like, we're having a meetup this Saturday, come out, we're going to do this thing. I love the vision, I love the motivation, but I think that it might be doomed to failure. So with that in mind, as a case in point, we have to come up with a certain criteria. We could probably put it right on the website that says that we will not even venture to get involved with getting behind a parcel of land unless there's a couple things, and I will be brief about my next point. But I did want to mention that this spiritual group that I've been getting together with for like the last 2 months, which is the Unity Fellowship in Sussex County, it's on a beautiful piece of land, it's a beautiful building, and I got the story behind it, which is that this lady who was involved with Unity Christianity, which is like a mystical branch, it's kind of like, metaphysical, mystical Christian type, spiritual system. Charles Fillmore started it. But this lady had lived in Sussex County her whole life, was a devoted Unity person, came into wealth. She ended up donating the land to the group, built the church outright. There's no mortgage. It's beautiful. It's beautiful to be in this space and just knowing that there's no banksters, there's no liens, there's no claims involved. It felt so free. That's the kind of stuff that I want to hold space for in Evolve Fest for Ubuntu. that when people hear the Ubuntu message, who do have these resources, that they'll be called upon, they'll be moved by the spirit within themselves to say, listen, I want to give my abundance to support this group. What I don't want to deal with is people who are in shaky credit situations and about to foreclose, and then being used as kind of like pawns in the game to like strengthen their case. You see what I'm saying? These are my concerns. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Robert?
Yeah, absolutely. There is no point in trying to build an Ubuntu community on a piece of property where the owner's just needing help making the payments.
Exactly.
It's, that's not what this is about. And also, I think all of us here probably have studied enough about law and banksters and the fact that money is created out of nothing, that the land should be free and clear, really. And if we can't make that happen, then we don't need to put a community on it. That's all I'm saying.
Maria?
Yeah, I completely back you with the way that you go into something like this. It is important because any type of energy that you put into a project or anything, it's going to resonate there and it's going to stay there. So I 100% agree with you with that. Absolutely.
Lucas?
Well, as much as it wouldn't be a good idea to get involved with a shaky situation of like somebody who's like on the verge of getting their house foreclosed upon or the property liened or something like that, it could be a great step towards the kind of core values of unity and abundance and helping out everybody and kind of taking back from the banks if we were to help Dustin get control back of his farm. With like, I'm sure some of the people here know what Jack McCaig is doing with Liberty Aid and eliminating debt in that way. I recently found out that because promissory notes are the only kind of legal tender left in this world, that any promissory note created, whether it be a Federal Reserve note or something you hand wrote yourself, should and has to be treated with the same kind of respect and as the same kind of tender as any other promissory note. So on that aspect, we could just simply help him out, get like his farm like reestablished in a better situation where he owns the land outright, but it wouldn't be a good idea to jump into a commitment before we realized what exactly the whole situation was. So if we could help him and try and change things that way, that would go a long way to like showing that like we all will back up other people who want the same idea, who have the same kind of vision, and help people in trouble, because there's a lot of people probably in that exact same situation as Dustin who are getting their houses liened, and there are simple solutions to bring it out, because in this fraudulent system there are lots of loopholes, and as much as we can use those to free people from the banksters or what have you is a very good thing. So if we could look into helping Dustin get control of his farm, then we could possibly do something to form a community there, but that's only as far as we can make sure that the land is not going to be like foreclosed upon, and that like after 2 weeks of moving on to the community, like the feds or someone comes in to try and shut things down. Like, we need to know there has to be like some form of sense of security if there is going to be a whole community of people moving out there.
Right on.
Absolutely.
Ben and Jess?
Yeah, totally agree with everything that's been said so far. My intuition is right there with you about what's happening right now, and helping is a great idea. Maybe we could put out, with respect to what you were talking about, David, some kind of rules, just a general guidebook, however brief it may be, of anyone really who has land and wants to start a Ubuntu community.
I also think that, what the heck are we learning all this stuff about law and taking back our power if we're really afraid to stand up and help out brothers who have the land and are ready to give it to us. I think that, really maybe outreach to some of the people that are working on this, and tying it in with the grander vision. And I think really helping out Dustin in this situation is something that a lot of the people who are studying law and working on getting people their houses and their properties free and clear, like this might be a big one for them, and they would be greatly rewarded for it. So might be worth some outreach. I just get the feeling that really no matter where we end up deciding to make the first one or the first couple of ones, ultimately we are divinely guided, and if we need to go into a not so perfect situation, we should have the confidence that we're going to go in there and make it work, because we are going to go in and make it work. So I just think that just all the fear and doubt, like that's just old paradigm stuff. Where we can feel a little confident and I don't know, just authoritative about like going in and fixing situations that need to be fixed. That's all.
James, any thoughts on this, or would you like to pass?
Oh no! I want to chime in on this one.
Oh, please.
I didn't realize.
Bring up your voice like you did before too.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was going to be this good. I hope you like this. Let me give you a little background on this property I'm working with. My partner outright owns 40 acres that the city of Coaldale is on. So essentially, when we move in on the property, we're not just going to be a community. I think there's a lot of ways we can actually interface with the county and the state and probably even federal, telecommunication-wise, on services. In other words, we can get the underground scoop on actually approaching this from the point of view of what it would be like to actually be a city. There are 734 registered voters in Esmeralda County, and the 25,000 acres that is there is the township access right for Coaldale, so it's actually Coaldale Township. That township sits on Indian property. There are 6 other townships that has almost the same spread that Las Vegas does. This is the area where they said the speed train from California was going to come into Nevada. I'd actually be interested in sectioning off some of that 25,000 acres and working with Ubuntu. Are you guys interested?
Yeah, we can definitely talk more about that.
I'll leave this as a footnote and we'll come back to it.
Sounds great.
Okay, all right.
Elizabeth?
I didn't realize it was going to be this way. Thank you. I didn't realize this until just now. Thanks.
Actually, here's George back. Can we just go to George first? I'm trying to go right down in sequence here.
Well, I actually had a little talk with Dustin on the phone a few days ago, and one of the things that came out in the conversation was that he's surrounded by fracking, and the gas companies had offered him money to do that kind of work on his land as well some time back. So, I guess the whole point I want to make is that it's a complex situation, and there are many different factors that need to be considered, and I sort of think that it's a ripe situation for a number of mature people to sit down and get complete transparency from Dustin, and everybody work together as a family to figure out what is the right and best thing to do for everybody concerned. So that's my thought on it.
Great. Liz?
Yeah, I mean, kind of along the lines with what Lucas and is it Jess you guys were saying there. I wouldn't want to discourage anybody from taking risks. I tend to be a risk taker myself because, again, I get intuitions and I feel I'm guided to certain things. I'm like considering about 70 acres, a farm up the road. It's a slightly bigger mortgage than what I have now. I have a lot of this house paid down. But the reason that I'm willing to take the risk is because I know a lot of people in my community have no money to put down on anything, and as much as they want to be involved, the only way that they could be involved is if somebody, takes the initiative. So, I mean, again, I'm pretty good with math, and I've done pretty well. And I also read a lot about the law, like you guys do as well, and I'm looking for remedies. So I would like to be open to all of that as well.
Thank you, Liz. And David is with us, newly with us. David, can you hear us? Okay.
If I could just say something, Jared just mentioned he's listening to all of us, and he just wants to say he appreciates being here, and he has some marketing experience that he wishes to share. And Dave, he's going to reach out to you soon about that as well.
Fantastic. If he's able to access the chat, he can also type into the chat section. I just want to acknowledge David, too. I'm not sure of the last name, Suzuki, maybe Suzuki. I see your image on the video conference, and I see that you responded by chat saying, when I said, can you hear us, you said, yeah, can you read me? Oh, I see, he's got no mic. Okay. All right, so David, yeah, feel free to type up if you have any comments on this point right here in the chat. Otherwise, we're going to keep rolling here because we've got to stay on track with time. We've got a few more things we've got to cover. So next up, the Ubuntu Sheriff, we can tie right in with the common law citizens grand juries, which is very, very much tied in with what James was talking about before. So the Ubuntu Sheriff, Johnny David Frechette, who I wish was on this call with us right now. I'm trying to get him on. He's awesome. I love that brother so much. He's up in Connecticut, and he's really just like jumping into all this stuff. And the sheriff, the traditional role of the sheriff is very important in this country. And the reason why is first you have to understand the philosophy of freedom and sovereignty, that the greatest power resides in the sovereign, in the individual. And then out from you, it's like these concentric circles, The greatest power is you and what is in you. That's why you hear a lot of people saying that when you're doing this stuff, you have to know who you are. But nobody's going to tell you. It has to be a process of self-discovery. But once you know who you are, you recognize that you are the sovereign in your own experience of life, okay? Then there's the family. That would be the next greatest unit of sovereign power. Then there's the local community. Beyond that is state government, federal government, and it goes out from there. So with that in mind, the sheriff is in charge with protecting the rights of the constituents in his community. Okay, not that any sheriffs or not many, not that many of them are doing that or fulfilling their roles in that way today. Many sheriffs have been federalized. They get gifts, Humvees, all sorts of weaponry from the feds, and of course, it's they're accepting it. They're becoming obligated in these contracts by receiving the benefit. They're now obliged to do what the feds want, but the common law sheriff is a tradition that goes way back into feudal England, right around the time of the Magna Carta, probably previous to that. It actually comes from the words the shire reeve, or the reeve of the shire. Okay, counties in England were called shires, so you can think of your own county as a shire. And what the reeve would do is the reeve would protect the constituents within the shire or within the county. So the idea is that if your rights are being violated, okay, by anybody, by your neighbor or by the President of the United States, you can call upon your shire reeve or your sheriff to come and protect and defend your rights. Now, in his own county, the sheriff has more authority than the President of the United States. It's important to understand that the county jurisdiction is unto itself. The sheriff does not answer to the state. Okay, the sheriff doesn't answer to the president or the feds. He answers to the ones who voted him into office, because the sheriff is the only law enforcement arm in the whole system that we have here who is an elected official. Judges are appointed. The sheriff is elected by the people, so he answers to the people. If the feds roll in with these alphabet agencies, they are in his jurisdiction. He can tell them to get the hell out of there. If they try to come in and enforce federal legislation against his constituents, he has the ability to put together a posse, okay, and deputize people in his community to literally stand up against the feds. If it came down to it, he could deputize people. So with that in mind, I'm just trying to give you an idea, not to confuse sheriffs with a lot of these, beefy, steroided out guys who are hyper aggressive and ego-driven. The sheriff is a protector. He's a servant of the people, and he's really putting himself out there because he is laying it on the line. Like, in other words, he will stand in the gap for you to defend your rights to the death if necessary. With that said, as we establish our communities, it may be important, especially initially, because I'm sure I don't know if I'm sure, but we have to consider all possible, situations. If there's ever trouble, coming from the state level or the feds, we have to know that within our communities that our county sheriff is aligned with Ubuntu. Okay, so the goal is to not only teach our community, our county sheriffs about their authority and about their duties as sheriffs, but we have to, turn them on to the Ubuntu idea and get them behind Ubuntu to the extent that we can. And that's ideally why we want them. As far as the common law grand juries, when we are dealing with abuse and corruption in law, okay, because the arena is going to end up in the courtroom. That's where it has to end up because of the big moves that we're doing. Everything functions by presumption in law. And as long as everybody's being a good little obedient, slave of the system and not rocking the boat, they're going to leave you alone. But when you challenge their authority and when you challenge the very presumptions by which they function, they're gonna want to talk to us, and we're gonna want to talk to them. So the idea of the common law citizens grand jury is very much like what James was saying with the assembly. Is that, again, this has a long-standing tradition in common law. You can put together a jury of 12 people, 12 or 13, and run an official common law citizens grand jury. You can pass indictments. People are doing it already. In fact, a great place if you want to connect is the National Liberty Alliance, because they've constituted these common law grand juries in all of the states, and the only challenge is enforcement, okay, right now, because you can pass indictments, but who's going to go out there and round up the criminals? Well, right now, that's we're at a disadvantage for that because we're dealing with a system that's very entrenched in terms of force and power. But I would love to hear your thoughts on having these legal bodies by which we can actually judge the judges and judge the police and judge the laws and kind of distinguish ourselves from the corrupted jurisprudence and revert back to common law, which is natural law, which is divine law, which is common sense that we should all be able to agree upon. Robert?
Yeah, I totally agree with all of that. Have you? Let's see. What's that guy's name? George, was it you that's there? There was someone in our group here that shared a link to a guy that's working with grand juries. He did it.
But I don't recall his name right now. But
yeah, I was trying.
I was
trying to remember his name.
Was that the special prosecutor from Utah?
Yeah.
That's right. That's who it was. Yeah, I actually listened to that. That's very interesting. I'm curious to see where he goes with all of that. But the sheriff thing, I've been thinking about it a little bit since you've been posting things about the sheriff, and I'm not from Victoria. That's where I'm at right now. We've lived here about a year, and I don't know much about the politics in the area, so I was asking a friend of mine that's lived here for a while, and he's like, yeah, the sheriff is, he's old money political family, and trying to to run against somebody like that would probably be impossible. But I was thinking about it today. If I went and talked to him and said, "Hey, how do you view your office? What's your job? Tell me a little bit about what what you think your job entails, and maybe throw some ideas out at him and just see where he goes with it. He might be on our side, and I may not even know it. So
we should maybe design a flyer that we can give to sheriffs and people in law enforcement.
Well, and with the group, the Oath Keepers, is that the sheriff's group?
Oath Keepers.
Yeah. So he's more than likely aware of that group. If he's not, he needs to be. And yeah, I think we should be reaching out to those guys in our communities, and if they aren't in alignment with us, then maybe we should run against them.
Yeah, any one of us can be sheriff. That's the other thing too, is that we should probably, if we can't get our county sheriffs to be willing to protect our rights when it comes down to it, if they're not willing to basically fulfill their roles and duties, then we ourselves should be running for the role of sheriff in our own communities. Maria?
Yes, I was thinking also about the sheriff thing, and I think it's really important that we put, like I told you, the characteristics of the sheriff out there so that people can have a clear understanding, and also we need to be ready for any type of questions that people are going to ask, because in any area of Ubuntu there are going to be a lot of questions, and there are going to be people that's going to be say, oh, you're just going to go back to the old days of doing this. So there's going to be a lot of questions. So it has to be a good layout of what the sheriff's role is. And another thing that I just want to go a little off topic here, but with the whole coordinator thing, I asked Michael Gabriel to make a list of basically the roles of what a coordinator should be, and we can do something similar with the sheriff. And as soon as that's up and running, we can put that also on the website, and we can say become a state coordinator, and we can put that there so we can attract more people, so everyone can feel as though they can get involved. So yeah, that's my thoughts.
Thank you. Lucas, sheriff and common law grand jury, any thoughts?
Well, as much as it is a good idea to make some presentations to be able to give to the sheriff, and I actually have some good information that could probably go into that, like some case law that could really back up what we're trying to say and what the role of the sheriff truly is and how they truly should be acting. But it would be great to get like a true Ubuntu sheriff elected. The problem with getting an actual sheriff elected is we've got to end up meeting all of the training requirements. In all reality, there are no very strict guidelines to becoming a sheriff, but there are some very basic things that everyone's going to expect you to have, and that's like a basic knowledge of law enforcement, something like firearms training, crime scene training. They usually, I was actually doing some research on becoming a sheriff today, and they offer sheriff training programs to anybody who has no background in law enforcement, but generally the sheriff is not required, but it's like pretty standard that the sheriff has at least 4 or 5 years in a law enforcement position prior, so that people know they're going to be cut for the job, because it is a pretty stressful job, because being the sheriff means you usually will have some deputies underneath you already. So being a sheriff is being like the head of that kind of office. And another problem with getting them elected is that when people register to vote, the legal definition of register is to sign over ownership of that. So when you register yourself to vote, you're signing over ownership of your vote, so that it doesn't necessarily matter who we vote for. It's become very apparent that these elections are rigged, that it doesn't matter who wins. It's a casino. The House always wins. People vote for the lesser of two evils. But I posted something about common law grand juries in the chat section of the group, and you can see that there. The NSEA NSEA, the National Security Enforcement Agency, and they have started some common law grand juries, and they have some sections to get people involved on the local level. But they've also figured out a little legal trick you can do to take away that voter registration problem. And the only way to register to vote is to be a citizen, and they've figured out that in United States law, a citizen and a national vary very differently. A national is not necessarily a citizen and does not necessarily owe allegiance in the way that a federal citizen now will. So using their system, which anybody can do, to become an American national would be a great way to make our votes really count. Because if we're just registering ourselves to vote, then the plan is doomed to fail because we're playing their rigged game. It's their rigged system. There's no way they're going to allow us to come into a position of power unless we truly do assert our rights on the most fundamental level of getting them back for ourselves individually, and then moving on to being able to further elect us. So I think really it'd be, if we were going to have some Ubuntu sheriffs, the first step would be educating all the present sheriffs, and the next step would be training people like us who are already involved with the Ubuntu movement to be sheriffs, and then correcting our statuses so that so that the elections actually count for something. We're not just playing a rigged game doomed to fail. So that's my little tidbit on the subject.
Thanks. Ben and Jess, your thoughts?
Lucas really laid it out there for us. Yeah, I mean the common law grand juries, I see some real promise in that. Sheriffs, like, I mean that's really a specialized job, and those people that have been doing it for a while. I think really going into a meeting and presenting to them all their powers. I think, like, I don't know how it would work with the notary public too. But like everybody wants to like have someone come into their office and tell them how powerful they are, and like what, you know, and explain to them that, like, hey, look at what you can do. So that's just basic outreach. Let's actually go out and meet some sheriffs first before we decide that, like, we need to go take all their jobs, because when we project what we project onto people, who we expect them to be in any given situation, your preconceived notions of who someone is has a big impact on how any interaction is going to go. And if we go into any interaction, you know, with the strongly held belief that we are going to, you know, have a meeting of the minds and hopefully, you know, get heart to heart and exchange information, I think that honestly, with what we know and the vibration that we carry, like that vibration of love can move mountains, and we need to go out and test that in the field and see what we can do.
Well said. The only thing I have to add is there should be more female police officers and female sheriffs, and just more girls involved in that whole office in general. So
Yes, we need more compassion, more maternal care. Absolutely. James, any thoughts?
Yeah. You guys hear me?
Yeah.
Jesse, I thought your approach to that was excellent. Thank you. That was awesome. Thank you. You know, I do have some thoughts, and I like the idea that you guys are trying to round out your descriptions and definitions. But I'm hoping you can take a step back for a minute and see it from a broader perspective. Let me give you a scenario. We have a town where they know there's a degree of corruption, but there's enough civility to where a grand jury in that state, being guided by somebody who has had grand jury experience in that state. Now I am not one to execute a grand jury, a common law grand jury, inside of what I would consider lex regia. I will improve that definition of that as we go along. I call that the war jurisdiction. So the one thing that I would try to examine is strategy in all of this. So let me give you an example. Say you're in a particular town or community, and you realize that the voting is being tampered with. you could really, taking somebody with some experience and really you could almost slam bam, thank you ma'am, sequester the voting machines, all the ballots, pure investigation on the corruption, get all the information and straighten it out. And if you don't think you're going to get some respect from your sheriff, I think you're mistaken unless the sheriff's in on it. Okay, that's strategy. Now, you're going to learn a lot from that experience, and it's not so much being successful as it is learning about all the players. When you can have your own assembly and you can learn how to use your own jury, your own common law jury, not a grand jury, but you can take that same group and adjourn into a grand jury, which gives you the protection of the actual superior court behind the grand jury. And the grand jury is like a glove that the community is putting on, reaching into the war jurisdiction, because actually the grand jury of itself is somewhat of a war jurisdiction entity. Again, I'll define that more as we go along. You can plan things in a way, and you can how do you say, you choose your battles that are going to be strategic, that are going to be easy to gain the respectable observation of others who are in that jurisdiction and gain their support. Now that's one way to look at it, but you could still encourage people, even though they're not aware of this local court, your local assembly, and your jury of 12 judges, trial by jury. Even if they don't understand that, and they still want to be involved in Ubuntu, you can still use that if they're willing to work with somebody who's already familiar with grand juries, and do that. But see, I'm not here to try and dump a lot of this stuff on people about doing this. I want to teach people. I want a slow pot to cook in, okay? I want it to be right, and I want it to be a spiritual experience, and I want people to understand how it's all going to work, and that this can't be done with fear and intimidation. This is not what this is about, ever. So my focus is on strategy, and I hope you guys will often step back, even though you're dealing with the parts, look at all the parts and think of it in terms of strategy. I yield, David. Thank you.
Sure. George?
Well, this is a topic on which I'm not going to have much to say because, I'm learning from all you good people, many of whom are very far ahead of me. So thank you very much for providing a lot of input for me so that I can learn from you.
Who else did we?
I'm sorry. This? I had to fill the latte.
Well, just having had a few having had a few conversations with Mike Schiff, our sheriff, they don't know their power, just as Ben was saying. They feel that they are very beholden to state, federal law, and they will not, and they can't deal with being seen as a lawbreaker, so they very much need an education. And I think that, I wouldn't even know where to begin with giving them that education. I wouldn't know where to direct them, so those would be definitely resources we would look to provide to them.
I could make a comment that might help on this about the sheriffs. Dave, is that okay?
Sure. Oh yeah, please.
I've since I've been 12 years old, I have often seen people hand out flyers on the street about the approach of communism and the loss of the dollar and inflation. I've been looking at this for years and years. And one of the things in my journey was realizing that there was an underground among police officers, and there was a kit. Now, don't quote me on this exactly, but it used to be called the Vampire Kit.
Oh yeah, Jack McGlam. That's Jack McGlam.
You remember that. You remember that. Now, now I would think over time that data would improve. It was pretty crusty when it first started coming out. I mean, it was really lambasting the entire system. It was really being uh, in your face. You know what I mean? Now I'm sure it's more subtle but more exact.
I've
But
actually
there are
saw
people
some
out.
things
What I'm
from this new
suggesting is
one.
there are people out there, and if we could find those people, you know where I'm going with this. I yield.
Lucas?
I've seen some things on that new thing you're talking about. It's called Operation Vampire Hunter, and the last one they made was in 1999 and 2000, and that must be the one you're talking about. That was pretty
Right.
choppy, but when looking up about it, I found out that they had made a newer version of it that includes some like more recent, more like less dated material, but it still kind of comes from that same approach of being like really in your face, because I've seen some like excerpts from it online, and it still doesn't kind of capture how like I would necessarily think the Ubuntu community would want to go
Th-
at it.
There's
It
no
kind of
love. There's
like
no love in it, but there's knowledge. Yeah.
yeah, there's plenty of knowledge in it, but it's not coming from a place of like bringing everybody together. It's coming from a place of like starting like another silent war.
Right, and that's Operation Vampire Killer. And the guy who wrote that was an LA cop named Jack McLam, who has been around for decades as an advocate of sovereignty and freedom and the right to travel. He passed, I think, in February of this year, but he really made a big impact on the law enforcement community. Currently, the guy who's kind of like the big name in law enforcement who's advocating for these kind of ideas that we espouse in terms of personal sovereignty and freedom and rights and keeping an eye on the law society and the way that they infiltrate the whole system is Sheriff Richard Mack from Arizona. He actually sued the federal government. I think it's Mack and Prinz, Prinz. It's a Supreme Court decision. He sued the Clinton administration to enforce the Brady bill. And he basically said, that the feds could not come into his jurisdiction, and that he was going to arrest them if they did. So he's a big guy on the touring lecture circuit for freedom. But you might want to look up Richard Mack. He's got a book on Amazon called, The County Sheriff: America's Last Stand, or something like that. And I know we want to wrap up pretty soon. So let me just take a look here at the final categories of what we wanted to cover tonight. So my talk with Michael, literature distribution. Okay, before I go into talk with Michael, literature distribution, my thoughts are just like that it should just be anybody who's inspired to put together a nice flyer. You can make nice flyers if you have an iMac. I use Pages. They have templates. It's very simple to drop and drag an image, and very intuitive. I like to do it. It's a nice little art project. But then if we do it in Pages, we can convert it to PDF, and either way we can share it, and everybody can edit it for your respective communities. Larry Twist out in California took my flyer and he edited it so that he could hand it out with his name and his meetup place for what he's trying to do out there. So we can share our literature with one another, but I think that getting out into our town squares, places where people congregate, local parks, wherever there's a lot of local people, county fair, 10Ks, just connect with your community. Like, start going to events. Get like the local flyer, the circular that comes in your mailbox and announces all the upcoming, the community calendar. Get out to those events. Bring Ubuntu literature. Talk to people. Those are my thoughts. Robert?
Excuse me. No, I totally agree with you. I don't really have anything else to add to that.
Okay, Maria?
Hi. Yes. We were working, me and Kyle Berry, we're talking about the funds to gather for Ubuntu coordinators to be able to distribute these flyers. I had the idea, if we have enough money for that, we can set up a whole little box for each coordinator. We can make flyers, like you asked me to, a flyer for all the local farmers, name cards, just with a nice little logo of Ubuntu, and then a name and a number or email. I was thinking of letterheads. If you ever want to send out a letter to anyone, if you want to do it properly. Posters, there were talks of posters, because I think we can get really creative with that as well, with all kinds of Ubuntu logos. Coffee cup holders, we can do that. And what I was also thinking, to promote, and able to get the funds and to promote that, I was thinking, Jesse also brought it up, we should make a video. And I love the recording for each coordinator. Just record something, be out in a garden or in a setting with a lot of people, ask them about Ubuntu, what they think of it, or if they have ever heard about it, and then record that, and they can all send it to me or whoever is able to make a video, stitch up those recordings, and we can get anyone who can sing in our group to make a little song for us, and we can attach that to the video and get it out there. We can get very creative. So.
Yeah, for sure. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Lucas?
That is a really nice point, to really touch on the creative aspect and really talk to some of the artists of whatever nature involved with some of these things, to really kind of let that aspect shine, because that's one of the like core things of Ubuntu, is like letting creative expression be able to flourish. I don't necessarily have a program right now to make flyers up or anything like that. David, you said you use Pages, but do you know if there's anything like that for Windows that I could use to start making like some nice flyers or pamphlets to be able to hand out to people? Because right now all the information I have is really general and it's not really like outlined, and I don't necessarily have like a format right now to like put it all together in a nice neat little package.
You can get normal templates for Word for flyers, basically anything. If you just Google free template layouts, you'd get it for Word if you have the normal Office. And they have tons of ideas on there. I mean, you can even use Publisher. You can just do main things, and if you'd like, if I have the free time, you can send it to me and I can even review it for you, and I can add some images and help you with that. I don't mind.
Well, that would
like
be
I
great.
said, I just need to have the time.
Yeah, that would be great to get a nice collab effort and really make it like a community effort from everybody to make these flyers, so that the information is really like a full-blown consensus of everything that we're talking about.
Absolutely.
Great. Jesse, any thoughts?
As far as distribution goes, I sent an email to, I guess, whatever the contacts, whoever, I guess maybe Louise in South Africa. I don't know if she gets the emails, but just regarding, maybe another, what it would take to do another round of printing of the book, perhaps here, and, maybe even do like a hardcover version, and there might be some sort of push to get the book into independent bookstores and small little quirky places. There are lots of shops like that all across the United States that could be helping us get this book out. I mean, just walking around with the book and having it just the title and the picture there, I was very surprised by how many people asked me what book I was reading. Way more than usual. They're intuitively drawn to this information. So I feel like having physical copies of the book and having that be, people be actually able to go buy the physical book places is important, because everything is in the book. If once you read the book, I don't think there are too many haters that have read the entire book all the way through. And if we can get more people on that, I think that's clutch. That's clutch. I think I like the idea of having everyone do slightly different versions of their own brochures, and then they come out with so many different styles and designs and beautiful words that like we really can't be pinned down and branded as like really any one thing. and just decentralize everything. I think that's really the way to go, because each community is going to have its own style. Each area of the country is going to, have its own different thing going on, and creating just like blanket brochures that work for everybody. I don't know if that's necessarily the best way to go, but a good place to start.
Another idea that I had, if we get everything going and if all the coordinators have all the promotional materials ready, what we can do, I know a lot of local towns have festivals, like Dave also said, but if you can get a little table with all kinds of Ubuntu things going on, you can have T-shirts, you can have the books, you can have the stickers or whatever. It's going to look like a political campaign, which it is basically, but you also want to promote it in a creative sense, and you want to catch, what's the word? You want to catch the essence of what it is. So you can do that, and you can even have like a free food thing there, where you say food is free, if you have a little garden of your own, and just showing people what Ubuntu is physically. Yeah, so that's another idea.
Thank you. Jess, any thoughts?
Well, the arts and the culture and the ability to, that's what's going to drive all of this. It's really going to be about freedom of creation, and that's how, especially you brought up festivals. I was thinking, music, arts, and yoga festivals are becoming more conscious all the time from what I'm seeing out there. If the young people, myself, I'm talking to, want to go there and make an impact, giving artists a forum, like a place where they can create. We can lead with, look, it's an artist collaborative, it's a music collaborative. You get free food, and we're building it all together in our generation. I feel like making inroads on those festivals that attract lots of disillusioned young people, because that's all of us. That's going to be a major down, where we get talented people who are out in the world building, making, and creating already. We give them the opportunity to expand their skills and meet awesome people.
Like you guys. Do you have any thoughts?
This is just one random idea that came to me. Those little signs by the side of the road where politicians post their names and their campaigns that you see all over the place, especially up here in the Northeast. We should get some of those and plant them right next to all those political kinds of things, the name of our party and our motto, something really colorful that will capture people's attention once we have the website up and running with the website name. So.
I think that's an awesome idea.
Yeah, if I can interject real quick, Jess, only because I was thinking of this before. You had some great content to share that we shared the other week from what you sent to me, that PDF. We really need somebody in the group that can kind of stay focused on helping to make sure that the political end of this is going forward. I would love for you to consider that, although I want to foist it upon you. And the way I would envision that role is that it's not like up to you to make the party, but more like it's your oversight, like you're making sure that as we're doing all sorts of other stuff that we're not neglecting a really important thing like that. So I'd like you to consider that, maybe being kind of like the main coordinator to oversee the development of the parties. And I think that what was really resonating with the group last week, I know it was with me, because you were talking about the relative strengths and weaknesses of going just with the lower county level, going with the full-scale White House president deal, and I think that it needs to be both, with the understanding that it's much more likely we're going to get plugged into local stuff and maybe never the other one, but I think it's important to have that front, like we're comprehensive, we're busting out like at all these levels because we're awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. James, thoughts on this topic of literature at all?
Well, Robert, do you have the access to the server, the hosting service? I mean, are you on a Linux system? Do you know?
Yes, I have access.
Does it have a mailing list on there?
What do you mean?
Well, like for example, when they come out to the website, you can say, join our mailing list for updates.
Yes, yes.
That was one suggestion. Another one might be a forum with various categories, like the old, BBS. I don't know if anyone's
Right,
familiar.
yeah. We've talked about a forum, and we might end up doing that.
So I mean, like as a matter of fact, you might actually set up a private forum for your central core, and we can actually put our video out there. That could be the minutes. We could actually put documents out there for meetings, and we can actually develop and construct agenda for the next meetings using the same vehicle. That would be an organizational tool.
Right, right.
Now, if you give me some time, I can come up with 2 or 3 others, but that's kind of where I'm going on technology. I yield.
George?
I don't, excuse me, I don't have a great deal to say. I like all the ideas that have been brought out so far. I think, as I mentioned on Facebook, I have a friend who lives in Eastern Washington, and I reunited with her over the weekend, and I said to her, I have something I want to talk to you about later. It wasn't really a good time to get into it when we were talking. It was a big thing for me, that involving a lot of people, but my thought was, because she's involved with a lot of people who are into gardening, permaculture, and all those sorts of things. I want to just have a talk with her and kind of get my thoughts together first before I do, but to see if I could use her in a way to get out and talk to some of the people I really want to talk to. I live in a city, and there are some Ubuntu-ish things going on around here. There's the Beacon Food Forest in Seattle, which everybody in the world is aware of now. So I need to get myself down there to help those people. And while I'm there, hey Dave, how you doing? So there are a lot of possibilities. I have a personal problem, which is I'm a loner and like to sit at home all the time. But I can get outside of my comfort zone and go do a little talking, schmoozing with the neighbors and things. So anyway, those are the thoughts I've had around the whole subject. And if I ever manage to design myself a nice flyer, or somebody designs one for me, I could probably find places to put them. I was thinking too, when the subject came up of the book being published and distributed around here, I was thinking about a nice gentleman I talked to once a few years ago. His name is Pete Black, and he has a company called Swan Publishing in Texas, as it happens. But his story kind of goes, I'll give you the very brief version that as I remember it from him, that he was kind of down and out at one point in his life and had no money, but he had written a book. So he went and got a few copies printed, and he took it to all the little mom and pop grocery stores out in small towns and set up little displays. Sell my book, and you can keep half the profits. And that got him out of his bad situation and defined the rest of his life, I guess, since he became a successful author and publisher. So anyway. But it's a strategy we could think of, for getting the book out in, not in the cities so much, although there's nothing wrong with that. But getting it out really into the small towns is follow Pete's strategy.
Right, like we might want to just kind of own the responsibility for the bookstores in our communities, that each one of us and as coordinators plug in, make sure that all the bookstores in town have a couple copies of the Ubuntu book.
Yeah, at
Okay,
least give them that opportunity.
looks like Elizabeth just dropped off. I just want to make one other point about literature, which is that if we're going to make these nice flyers and put everything into it, it's worth laying out the few extra bucks to get double-sided glossy paper. It makes a world of difference rather than printing on the regular matte finish. You know, you can, you know, the ink kind of bleeds through. You can see through it. If you get double-sided glossy paper, it'll be a little bit more money, but it makes all the difference. They'll look super professional, shiny, colorful. You won't be able to see through it to the other side, so I just wanted to kind of put that in as well.
Could I talk for Eric? I have a suggestion.
Could you be a little louder, please?
Yeah. One of the things I thought that might be interesting there's a Ubuntu time bank. You guys know that, right?
I did not know there was an Ubuntu time bank. I belong to my local Northwest New Jersey time
Yeah,
bank.
there's a. I was wondering what would it be like to? I don't know how to arrange it because I don't know how the software works. I don't know how they capture data and report it, so I can't say how flexible it is. But out of curiosity, if we got people to, say if we were to all go out there and fill out and be a part of that time bank, right? It doesn't matter which time bank, but I'm saying if we did, and you could naturally lead people that are interested in Ubuntu. Go out and fill out the time bank thing, and you've got an automatic item there that you can. Number one, you'll be able to categorize all the work that you do for Ubuntu, if you want to. And that's what you're contributing. You never know how you could work that later on when you start getting people to sign up in your community. And, you know, like I said, I don't know how it arranges the data. Maybe if I went out and investigated that, I need to do that for my own project anyway. And I'll report back to you guys. How about that?
That's great. And somebody just shared on the chat here. I don't know if it's on the actual Hangout chat, but Maria, yeah, put a link to that. That's awesome.
Can you all see it? Oops.
Let me see here.
Maybe you can share that link, Dave.
Yeah, I'll be happy to. Oh, and there's Elizabeth saying good night. Okay, let me copy paste this. Okay, there it is. All right, and then I'll read to you the letter from Michael, the most recent letter, and then I'm sure everybody's looking forward, at least some of us, to getting to bed. Thank you for sticking around. So Michael reached out to me 2 days ago. He said, "Hi, David, please connect with me, brother." And just so you know, I had not spoken to him in, you know, probably about 6 or 7 weeks, so it's been a while. I would like to get some feedback about the Ubuntu activities in the US. Wait, you know what? Let me go ahead and just do a screenshot because we can and it's fun. Okay, so there we go. Okay, and share. Okay, and I was. Oh wait, hold on. Do you guys see that?
Not yet.
Okay, maybe when I talk.
Second.
Okay.
I see it.
Okay, cool. So yeah, he said, I would like to get some feedback about the Ubuntu activities in the USA. I need to get the names and emails of the coordinators that are popping up in the USA and ensure that we have a meeting of the minds and that the Ubuntu contribution as a message remains pure. I have received emails from some of the long-term followers that they are a little concerned about some statements made by people who call themselves Ubuntu coordinators. Just off the record, I'm off from this note, I think he is referring to somebody who's in the group that made a particularly, you know, violent statement about how we should rise up and kill all cops. So yeah, we've already kind of discussed that among a few of us already, but I think that might be related to the person who's in the group who said that. Since it was Sid that originally may have made these appointments as coordinators, it is important for all these people to connect with me and start creating a strong connection to the parent organization. The USA is the largest following of the Ubuntu movement, and it has to be kept pure, to the original philosophy and in strong collaboration with the parent movement in South Africa. We will be making the Ubuntu Planet website available to all affiliates to create their own country-specific website and connect to the portal. This will be our future control over potential rogue operators and detractors that have already started creating confusion about who is a true Ubuntu affiliate. I reply, hello from America, beautiful friends, because this is a group email with Louise and some other people involved. I was sorry to hear that your project was vandalized, but you seem to be handling it very honorably, all things considered, and surely many will be drawn to your aid by the compassion and love your reports contain. Here in America, we are focusing on filling posts at state, county, and township levels, 3 coordinators at each level with an organic pattern, not chain, of oversight and accountability. I also designed a colorful flyer so that everyone can start distributing literature at the local community level. I will include a copy as an attachment. We have been having weekly meetings utilizing the Google Hangouts, and which turn our video conferences into YouTube videos that you can review at any time. We have about 100 personnel on the Ubuntu Party USA Council of Elders page. That page is open only to those who have owned the responsibility to represent Ubuntu in their respective domains by initiating, moderating, and building up Ubuntu Facebook pages. I've had a few concerns recently about people in our group redirecting energy away from our core mission rather than repeat what I communicated in response to this. I will just share here the posts I have made over the last few days addressing the matter, which I will read here, although you guys mostly have read this, people seeing the video in the future have not. Hey there, everybody. I'm really grateful for all the talented and dedicated people here. Our Ubuntu Party USA initiative will rely on the unity of our mission, and we should expect that when we hold such a powerful vision for personal and planetary transformation, that all the powers and energetic influence of the waning authorities will try to divide and conquer us, subtly, energetically, and spiritually. I take my personal commission from Michael Tellinger very seriously. I intend to remain faithful to that agreement to establish Ubuntu Party USA in America. While it may make some sense to ally with other groups that can support our unique vision in a loose and informal way, we must also guard against losing ground and losing momentum that will erode and chip away at our particular and unique Ubuntu vision, the awesome vision that is summarized in the book that should be a constant companion to us, Ubuntu Contributionism. Whenever we connect with other groups, we must be especially careful to maintain the integrity and authority of what we believe in the most, Ubuntu Contributionism. If you believe in something more than Ubuntu, you should go right ahead and offer your strength and support that group. It only makes sense. I have been deliberately remaining on the periphery of this group while everyone obtains the book, reads it at least once, and grasps the plan laid out in it. Once we all do that, we can explode out of the gate and focus on our mission like a laser. Meanwhile, I see the group beginning to fragment by launching and focusing on alternative missions, and this will obviously not strengthen our Ubuntu solidarity, but will fragment and dissipate our potential launch and continuity energy. I want to make my opinion very clear that as an elder, it does not seem to serve the primary mission of Ubuntu Party USA for people here to be focused on alternative or competing movements or initiatives, at least not as a primary focus. Ubuntu contribution, your pride should go without saying. Ubuntu elders are called to be here to launch and establish Ubuntu Party USA and execute the plan Michael lays out in his book in dynamic, creative, and thrilling ways. By individuals redirecting energy and making calls upon the group to focus energy on personal projects and other people's initiatives is just a distraction from our primary mission at this point in time. Once Ubuntu is firmly established in the Americas, then anyone here can feel free to invite attention and energy to help develop new missions, which are inevitable anyway. For now, we must focus our full intention on working to establish 3 coordinators at every level and making sure each is trained to publicly represent Ubuntu contribution to their own respective communities. To reiterate, rather than everybody doing their own thing, we must unite with singular focus and singleness of intent to accomplish our primary objectives. I believe this has to be a leaderless. It will require double-strength vigilance and responsibility for each person to know their role and fulfill their duty without having to be reminded or goaded. I am here to serve as a director, one among many, so if there are any questions, comments, or concerns about these matters we just covered, I would love to open it up to a general discussion. And then another note to Michael. We are on a bit of an evangelistic mission here. We are, not that this was a note to Michael, both these notes were written to the group before Michael even reached out to me. But because of his questions, that's why I referred to these. So the second note says, we are on a bit of an evangelistic mission here. We are sharing good news that we really believe will enhance people's lives and bring immense blessing to the world. Our job is to share the Ubuntu vision without becoming distracted and without concerning ourselves whether our message is a distraction to others. We most definitely have the responsibility of informing others and disseminating our ideas. Of course, we remain open to dialogue and cooperation. It's not a one-way conversation or we lose. If others find our outreach distracting, they are free to communicate that and or disassociate, but we must not assume as much. If we worry too much about distracting or offending others, we will lose sight of our mission, which is to disseminate the ideas behind Ubuntu broadly, widely, effectively, and rapidly. Some will like what we have to say, some will not like what we have to say. So what? Our duty is to fulfill our goal of establishing Ubuntu communities in every municipality in the USA. We have lots of work ahead of us, and we must stay on course to materialize our group intention. I would love to check in by Skype. It's about 3 p.m. here by me. I imagine it may be getting late for you. When would you like to connect, brother? If we connect via Google Hangout, it can be made into a video that can be shared with the entire USA group, which would be awesome. Keep on being amazing. Talk soon. One love. I have not heard back from Michael yet. I know he's really busy, but did anybody, we won't necessarily go down the line, but anybody who wants to comment, question, please speak up.
You just said Michael's really busy. Robert, I just wanted to let you know that Louise actually messaged me back about the main Ubuntu logo that we asked, and she said she apologizes. She doesn't really get to keep up with all the international things, but she's glad we were able to design our own for this time being.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Great. So, anybody else before we sign off?
So everyone is going to email Michael introducing themselves, who considers themselves a coordinator, because he said he wanted to hear from everyone and establish more of a personal connection.
Yeah, let me just reiterate exactly what he wants there. He says, I need to get the names and emails of the coordinators that are popping up in the USA and ensure that we have a meeting of the minds and that the Ubuntu contribution message remains pure. So probably the best way to do it is that we should be, in fact, we should make it a top priority of gathering that information. I know that Michael Gabriel had started on Reddit that forum for people to kind of post like their primary, secondary, tertiary skills, but only 6 people have responded to that. So we need to, I think, get on the Ubuntu Council USA page. Maybe I'll pin a post to the top of the page for the next week asking everybody to provide their name, email, their state, their county, their municipality, so that we can, put together a spreadsheet and we can send our most current version to Michael. How does that sound?
That sounds great.
Okay.
I think the Reddit idea that Michael had was a pretty good one. Maybe not on the Reddit site, but if we could pin or incorporate like a Reddit-like structure of disseminating information onto the Ubuntu site. That would be really ideal, because that's like, we can vote on what posts are the most important, and that's like what you'll see at the top. And it might be new for some people, but really it takes like 1 or 2 days of enough people posting on it to get the hang of it. It's really like a very simple way We could all post, and like, we could have our comments, and the top comments rise to the top. And it's just a really great way to have the best ideas get put at the top of the page, so we're not scrolling through like 30 new Facebook posts on the page per day trying to find which ones are the most relevant, because we'll already have the voting mechanism in place with the Reddit, with upvoting or downvoting if something's completely irrelevant.
I hope there's some kind of insert link that we can plug right into our home page on the website.
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay, everybody. You know what I'd like to do? Jess had mentioned last week. I think it was Jess had mentioned that it would be really cool to open with some kind of mindful connection, and did that last week. Forgot to do it this week, but in closing, why don't we just take a few breaths together and just have a moment of silence to connect with our hearts and with one another and with the Creator. Just take a deep breath in together. Again. I'm feeling all of your hearts. I'm loving you. I'm loving the Creator. I'm grateful for the thread of unity that brings us all together, and just for the wisdom that flows through us, bringing us together on this forum, moving forward, joined together, heart to heart, hand in hand, to bring such a beautiful, beautiful vision to this world. And I'm just really grateful that everybody can meet up here tonight. And sending you guys all of my love, and I look forward, hoping that everybody who's here tonight can join us again for next Thursday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard. So lots of love, many blessings to all of you. I love you guys. Namaste.
Much love.
Much love. Good night,
Much love.
Bye, guys.
Good night,
Good
everybody.
night.
Mwah. Mwah.